Hello everyone. Let's continue building an Android browser from scratch with the help of Android components from Mozilla. And let me show you what we got so far. This is our browser. We have a neat little toolbar. We render the web content here, and you can start typing into the toolbar like theverge.com. You see a progress bar, the page loads, and yeah, it's already a usable browser, kind of. There are a bunch of web features missing that we would need to add to make it really usable. And one very important piece is missing that we wanted to add, and that is adding support for multiple tabs. Right now we have only this one browser tab, and yeah, as a user, we want to have a bunch of tabs. The last time we already added this little tab counter to the toolbar, but it doesn't do anything. So we need a way to show a list of tabs, basically, and then allow the user to switch tabs. So this is the repository, by the way, where all this code lives. And I'm going to paste this into the chat as well if you want to grab a copy. Let me move this to the left so that you can see this on the screen. Okay, so Mozilla Android components, I mentioned those. What is this? They live in this repository. So at Mozilla, we broke all the functionality of the browser down into multiple components. And a little bit like Lego, you can stack them together to build apps like a browser. And you can, again, like with Lego, remove pieces and put in your own pieces to create something that is unique. And that's more or less what we are going to do. And the tabs tray. I was thinking we could maybe use a DrawerLayout. Those are those things you can usually come in from the left and partially overlay the screen, and we could show the list of tabs in here. So whenever you click on this tab counter, the list of tabs swipes in from the left. And for the tabs tray, as in general, there is a component that is called browser tabs tray. And this is a customizable component that can lay out a list of tabs, or in theory even a grid. It's basically a recycler view with a bunch of things added on top to make it render tabs. And that's what we are going to use. And I think we could start by maybe adding a DrawerLayout that we trigger whenever we click on this tabs counter, and then we throw in the component, add some glue code to hook things up, and then maybe it's already working. But let's see. This is the layout so far. So the toolbar at the top, a find and page bar that you only do not see. That is this bar where you can search in the web content. And then the engine view, that is what's rendering the web content here. And so, yeah, let's start by adding a DrawerLayout, I think. And by the way, if you have any questions, please just put them into the chat, and I'm happy to answer them at any time, and even stop if I'm going too fast. So let's see, DrawerLayout. That's an Android X component, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Android X DrawerLayout 1.10. So let's add this to our Gradle config. Yeah, there's a bunch of highlighted dependencies here. The Mozilla Android components, we used version 49, and that's already kind of outdated. I think the latest version is 52. So at some point we should also take some time and update the dependencies, but not now. Android X.DrawLayout and The artifact is named DrawerLayout as well, and I'm version 1.1. Let's see if we can fetch this from Gradle. Okay. And let's search for the docs. If I remember creating a navigation drawer, yeah, it's not exactly this kind of drawer. So instead of this, what you've seen on a bunch of apps, and I guess it's slowly going away. I didn't see it in many new apps anymore. But instead of showing this here, we will have a list of tabs with maybe screenshots of the websites that we are currently on. Okay, yeah, so that's quite simple. We just wrap everything in a drawer layout and then add another view for our list of tabs. Okay, let's wrap this here. This means we can remove the namespace here. We don't need the app namespace. Let's call it drawer for now. Fit system windows, I don't think we need this in our case. That is so that this drawer can draw below the status bar. As you can see here, the green is below the status bar. In our case, I don't think we need this. We just want to show a list of tabs inside the app. We don't need to draw anything behind the status bar, for now at least. Maybe this is going to change at some point. And then we need a view that shows up in the drawer. Let's maybe add a text view, and if everything is working as it should, then we start adding the actual tabs tray. And let's add hello world as a text, just to make sure everything is working. And then what's the property that is needed? Layout gravity. Start, yeah, I think it should come in from the left. Maybe at some point we move this tabs counter over to the left now. Well, let's see, let's get it to work first, and then let's give it some background color so that we are sure that it shows up. Let's make it blue. Can also post maybe the Android components repository link into chat. Okay, at least we still see the browser. We don't see the drawer. We need to open the drawer first, and I assume we need to somehow hook this up first. I guess whenever we click on this tabs counter, we could just open a drawer. So maybe let's try this first. And this thing here we are in is the browser fragment. And last time we moved all the code that sets up the toolbar to this toolbar integration class. And here we added this tabs toolbar feature that under the hood adds this button to the toolbar, and then there's this lambda here that gets invoked whenever this button gets clicked. And yeah, last time we just added to do here, and now we need to open the drawer. So let's pass in the drawer here. And then inside the feature, we could just do drawer open. Now back to the fragment. Now we need to pass in the drawer here. can just look it up. Draw is the ID we used. It should work. There's a bunch of view find by ID code here that is quite ugly, as we mentioned last time. That's something to clean up at some point, but yeah. Let's only care about making it work for now. Yeah, last time we cleaned up some of the code, but there's still some stuff left. Okay. Nice. Here's our blue drawer. Yeah, whenever we click outside, it closes again, and the back button is not hooked up yet. That's something we still need to do. But that's maybe good enough for now. We have a drawer now. Let's add the actual tabs tray instead. As I mentioned before, there is a component that we can make use of. Just to recap, components like the tabs tray. So this is browser tabs tray, the component. Components like this usually implement interfaces. In this case, implements interfaces for a tabs tray, and those interfaces are defined in where's this list? In concept components. So there's a matching concept tabs tray component. And this one contains the interfaces for tabs trays, so that all code in other components, for example, that needs to talk to a tabs tray, they only talk to things that are defined in those interfaces. And that means you can either use, for example, the browser tabs tray component, or you can implement your own. Whenever they implement those interfaces, they will just work with all the other components. So we will use the off-the-shelf component that, by the way, are also using, this is also used by apps like Firefox for Android, the new one, and we are going to use it too. If at some point in the future we decide that we want to do something more fancy, we can implement those interfaces ourselves and create our own tabs tray. But yeah, for today, we just use the existing one. So let's add it to the list of dependencies, tabs tray. Try to sync. Okay. Let's see, now we should be able to use this view here. Browser tabs tray. And let's give it an ID so that we can access it. Okay. Let's see what happens if we deploy this. Assume we see almost nothing. Because we haven't hooked up the tabs tray yet, so it's rendering an empty recycler view at the end of the day. Okay, I click on this button and I'm not sure there's anything happening. One thing we just removed is the gravity layout margin. Gravity start. I assume that's the reason why we don't see anything happening at all. We should at least see this, the right side that's not covered by the drawer should at least get darker. And again, yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know. Yeah, so I clicked on this. Everything is dark. We need to show a list of tabs in it, and we need to give it a background as well. I wonder if we should use the same color as the toolbar. Let's try that and see how this looks like. Is this the color teal 200? No, purple 700, I guess. Let's see. And then we add the glue code. Oops. Color, no, purple 700. Okay, let's see how this looks like, and then we do the right thing. Yeah, I think that's fine for now. Clashes a little bit with like the status by having the same color, so maybe at some point we use the lighter color, but that's not important for today. So let's hook up the tabs tray. So what needs to happen in a tabs tray or in the glue code is it needs to register to our browser store that has all the state. Whenever the state changes, it needs to update the recycler view. And that is nothing special. It's almost the same for all the tabs trays that implement the interfaces, right? Subscribe to this, call the right methods on the implementation of the interface. So that's something we wrap as components as well. If you use all the standard interfaces and components, there's no need to write the glue code yourself all the time. So there's a feature tabs component. We already integrated this component last time to get the tabs counter. And now we will use the same component to also set up our tabs tray. So let's try this. There should be a tabs feature, I think. Yeah. Again, feature classes are those classes we usually use to wrap all those functionality together, this glue code. So there's usually a feature you instantiate. So let's see. The feature needs, of course, a reference to the tabs tray. And we already have a find by ID somewhere. Oh no, that's only for the draw. Okay. View find by ID. Did we? Yeah, tabs tray. Tabs tray. And we need to tell it what it is. We expect a browser tabs tray object. Okay, what's the next thing? A store. That is something we already inject here with the help of dagger hilt. The store is again this thing that keeps a reference to the state that you can dispatch actions on to change the state. The select tab use case. Do we already have those use cases here? Session use cases, engine use cases? No. While I type this code to add the tabs use cases. Use cases are again some kind of wrapper class. In a browser you have common tasks that a bunch of components need to do. For example, open a tab, removing a tab. For example, the tabs tray, if you close a tab, needs to remove this tab from the store. And those common tasks, you don't want to write this code everywhere in your browser, like dispatch this action on the store and maybe do this and that as well. So we wrap those in those functionality in those use cases, and then you can just pass those use case objects around, and then other components can just invoke methods like remove a tab. And internally, the use case handles all the things that need to happen if you remove a tab. And that has two advantages. One is the components themselves don't need to know how to deal with removing a tab and which components are involved in that. And it allows you to actually pass in another use case that does it differently. So if you look at Firefox Runtime, you sometimes see use cases being overridden and doing other or additional things instead of the things we provide in those components. So I added something to inject the tabs use cases. We just need to tell Dagger Hilt or Hilt how to actually create one. So where was that? Should be in those modules, use case module. So provides, and it can be a singleton. It actually does not need to be a singleton, but just because it also does not make sense to have the same use case object 20 times in the app, we define them as singletons here. Provides tabs use cases. Again, let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to stop at any time and explain more. Okay, tabs use cases. What do we need? We need a store. We already created this somewhere else. So what else? A session manager. If you're wondering what this is, the store, as I mentioned, keeps all the state. The session manager is the legacy version of that. It's still needed for some kind of things. We haven't refactored that out completely. So for now, there is a weird session manager at times. This will go away. Okay, tabs use cases. Oh, it's a specific one. It is .select tab and tabs use cases .remove tab. We don't pass in the wrapper object that groups all of those tab use cases together. We pass in the single use cases. And filter, and what should happen if you close the tabs tray? To do. There are situations where, for example, you close all the tabs in a tabs tray, and then usually a browser also closes the tabs tray. And what happens in this case, that's what you can define here. I assume if you open the drawer and we have a list of tabs here and you close all of them, then maybe just close the drawer. Not sure if it makes sense to still be on the drawer. Yeah, I assume we will close it and be back on default tab here. Probably makes sense. Anyhow, we can leave it as a to-do here. And yeah, then there's one last thing we need to do. The feature only needs to observe the state and update the views if the app is in the foreground. So we need to pass some lifecycle events to the feature, like start, stop. We initially, in the very first version of the browser, did this manually for all the features, but that's annoying to do. There's a better way. One easier way is that those features that need this implement lifecycle aware feature, and this is at the end of the day a lifecycle observer, so we can just register this feature as a lifecycle observer on the fragment in this case. But we decided to do something else last time, and that is using a helper from our components called view-bound feature wrapper. So the reason for that is those tabs, or some of the features at least that we use here, have references to views. And if we keep them a reference to the feature inside the fragment, then the fragment always has a reference via the feature to the view. And then in states where the fragment is detached, we still keep references to the view and are essentially leaking the view. So we could, of course, now go in and create a new tabs feature whenever we call on view created, and then pass along the lifecycle methods, and whenever this gets detached or the view gets destroyed, we clear the reference of the feature and so on. But that's at the end what this view-bound feature wrapper does. It looks at the at the view, and whenever this view gets detached, it will internally clear the references to the view, and will also take care of registering for the lifecycle methods and passing in or calling start and stop on the feature. So we will just use this wrapper. I wish there would be a way how I could get Dagger to have components that only exist while the view of a fragment exists, but I haven't seen this being possible with vanilla Dagger, at least. Since we use Dagger for all the other things here, but for the other things it's fine that they only exist as long as the fragment exists. For those features we want a shorter lifetime bound to the view. Okay, so tabs tray feature. It's a view bound feature wrapper around tabs tray. Oh no, it's called tabs feature. Okay, and then let's also name this tabs feature. And then instead of creating an instance here, we say tabs feature dot set, because we create a new instance here whenever the view of the fragment is created. And then we need to tell it basically the lifecycle owners the fragment, so start and stop should be based on the fragment lifecycle, and it should be bound to the view. Whenever this view goes away, this feature needs to go away too. Let's see what happens if we deploy this. Awesome. I think there's a tab. There's not a screenshot yet. I think blue is the default color for a selected tab. So we need a way to create more tabs. How do we do this? Maybe just adding a new button. Yeah, could do this. Yeah, let's just start with the button. So what kind of layout do we use here? Maybe we can start with a linear layout. Definitely not the best choice, I guess. Yeah, let's use the linear layout, and then once we are happy with the result, we see how to reorganize the layout in general. We add a button, Android, let's give it an ID. Add tab, maybe for now. And add a plus. Yeah. Let's take some time with another stream to make this nice. For now, let's make it functional. Why is this red? Orientation is missing. Yeah. Vertical. And I guess this one now needs to use the remaining space. So let's take a look at how this looks like on the device. Oh, okay. We forgot to move the gravity to the new root layout. Okay, pretty ugly, I'd say. but maybe fine. Let's move the color as well to the root layout so that we do not have this transparent in here. Okay. Yep, that works for now. Now just need to hook this up. So whenever someone presses on this button, we open a new tab. I think go to maybe about blank for now, which will just run a white page, and select this tab and close the drawer. Do three things, like add a new tab that we select that goes to about blank and close. Okay. For now, let's also hook this up inside the fragment, just here plain vanilla Android code, find view by ID. It's a button. We want the add tab button. And then we add an on-click listener. And now we can actually use the use cases ourselves. So tabs, use cases, add a tab. And then we say go to about blank. And then also select this tab. Select tab equals true. And then we need to close the drawer, and we have a reference here that we need to move outside this call. Drawer. Move this here. So there's a bunch of stuff happening now that we want to move to. Maybe also toolbar. We have this toolbar integration class for setting up the toolbar. We might end up creating maybe a tabs tray integration class that does all this code, does all the setup that we are now just throwing into this fragment here. So whenever we say add tab, we add the tab, select it, close the drawer. That looks good. Try this. The tabs counter isn't handled automatically by the tabs feature or something? That is a good question, Organized. It should. It actually should. And I'm not sure why it's not. Let's take a quick peek. Where did we do this? In the toolbar integration class. We added this tabs toolbar feature, which adds this thing, and whenever it's getting clicked, we call open. And inside this toolbar feature, it actually registers and updates the count. So it should. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen once we open new tabs now. Yeah, see, it is updating now. There seems to be a problem with the initial state. Okay, but that is pretty cool. Oh, whenever we select, we just select. I think we want to close the tabs tray as well, right? Because you select the tab and then should immediately close. And I'm wondering now if we want to have this grid. Maybe we just want to have a list. I'm thinking a little bit to make it like, I use this tree style tab add-on in Firefox currently, at least for the stream. Maybe we want to have those one row items as well, but with a screenshot. Do I have, yeah. So here's Firefox nightly. And if we go to nightly, this kind of style, I think that would look quite nice maybe inside our browser as well. Okay, let's try loading a page. See if the tabs tray updates correctly. Yeah, you can see the title changing. In front of the title there should be the fav icon of the website, like you can see in the browser here, in the desktop browser. We haven't hooked this up yet, so that's why there's no icon at all. I wonder if we make it look like in Firefox. There was no icon in Firefox, right? I think that looks pretty nice. Yeah. And it's the title and the website URL. And here it's only the title. And this is a blank space for the thumbnail. And that's something we haven't hooked up either, I think. Yeah, let's start first by making this close the tabs tray. And if we go back, the tabs feature does contains all the glue code and hooks things up. And if you remember, we passed in this select tab use case, and this one knows how to select a tab. And that's basically what's happening whenever we click on something here. You can see in the background the new tab is actually getting displayed, and the selection changes here as well. To close this, we need to pass in a different use case that does the closing too, because the tabs tray itself doesn't know what to do in this case. That's up to the app. Like that we are closing this drawer is an implementation detail of the app we are writing here. Like the tabs tray could work completely differently, and so closing this thing, yeah, only makes sense in this context here. So what we can do is, if you click on select tabs tray, this is a select tabs use case, and this is an interface. So we can just override this and do something else. So select and close. Select tab and close use case. Let's call it like this. And as mentioned before, it's super ugly to have this here in the fragment. Let's just ignore this for now. Okay, this forces us to implement two methods. There are two ways to select a tab right now, either by the tab ID or by actually giving a tab object, session in this case, to the use case. The great thing is we don't actually need to care about this because we can just delegate those to the actual use case. So select tab, invoke, and pass in the session. So now our use case just delegates. We pass in this one now. And now in addition to that, we also close the drawer. Drawer, close. And drawer, close. Let's see. It is red. Because what is it complaining about? Oh, equals, not a colon. Okay, yeah, now it should work. Yeah, thank you. As leaks, I was missing the equals. Oh, I missed a comment. Can we close the drawer where the to do comment is? Line 138. Let's take a peek. Close tabs tray. You're absolutely right. And I may have even mentioned this, but since this is a super common use case, we actually provide already the implementation for what do you want to do if there is a situation where you want to close it. I'm not sure if it's getting invoked in all cases. Let's actually check this. Yeah, it's already getting invoked whenever you select one. You're totally right. That was absolutely unnecessary. Let's test if it works, and then we remove all that code again. Yeah, we can switch tabs, and now you see the power of reading the docs. Select tab, and now we do draw close here. Close. Okay, let's open a new tab and we go to Wikipedia. Yeah, much nicer, just one line of code instead of overwriting the use case. But you saw one of the reasons why it's nice to have those use cases that you can pass around instead of having a feature implement selecting a tab itself. If you pass in those use cases, then an app can override this and decide to do other things. That's quite a powerful feature. Yeah, but for closing, no need. Let's see, if I close this tab and this tab, well, we close the tabs tray now automatically. We are back on this state where there's an empty toolbar. And I think we can just navigate to a page. And now we are back at one tab. Awesome. That is pretty nice, I think. Let's commit this first version, I think. Okay, let's see. We added the browser tabs tray component. We added the drawer layout. Then in our fragment, we added the tabs use cases because we need to select and remove tabs and so on now. We added the tabs feature. That is the glue code that observes state, updates the tabs tray. And then, yeah, for now we added this little button here that you can press to open new tabs. And whenever we press this button, we actually open the drawer. We tell our dependency injection framework how to create those use cases, and then we updated the layout to now contain the drawer and the tabs tray and the button. Yeah, pretty cool. Add basic tabs tray. And then let's push this. And then a basic tabs tray, yeah. So I'm going to post this one more time. This is the repo. There you can see all the code, follow along. Yeah, so what do we do next? Make this actually look better? I think there's one thing we could do. I have an idea why the counter doesn't work. And that's if we close the browser on launch, you will see we immediately go to mozilla.org. And that's because at some point we did fake this in, I think. Where did we do this? Here, we always had a session here. Let's get rid of this. Of course, whenever you open your browser, you don't want a random page to pull up. So now we are in this empty state, and for one of the next episodes, we probably want to have a nice empty state because that does not look nice at all. But it's functional. We can click into the toolbar, load a website, and now, hey, it's working. And the counter is actually at 1. Can open this, close this, nice. Let's commit this too, and then let's spend a little bit more time to make the tabs tray nicer. And then I guess we succeeded with our goal to have multiple tabs today. Remove default tab. No, stop opening mozilla.org on launch. It's maybe more descriptive. Okay, push this too. Yeah, it's hard coded. Okay. What's the next thing? Let's make this look nicer, right? I wonder if we should move this to a new class immediately. Yeah, maybe we should. Last time we created this toolbar integration class to just wrap all the setup code for the toolbar. Let's do the same for the tabs tray. A tab stratty. That's wrong. Rename tabs tray. Tabs tray integration. Okay. Let's add this here. Tabs tray integration. And we again use this view-bound feature wrapper because this integration should only exist as long as there are views inside this fragment. Tabs tray integration. Let's actually create the class. And it's a lifecycle aware feature. With start and stop methods. So all the setup code, we move this now to our new class. Let's see, how did we do this in the toolbar integration class? You just throw it in and do most of that in init. Okay. So this means we can move the tabs feature over. We don't need the view-bound feature wrapper anymore because this integration is already wrapped in this wrapper. And let's see, tabs feature. So we move all of that init code over into here. This use case is a singleton. That's a great question. 1 second, let me move this over. Okay, and we need to pass in a bunch of things. Here in this app it is. This is our build module where we define how the use cases get created, and we marked all of them as singleton. So yeah, they are singleton here. They don't need to be singleton though, because they are at the end of the day more or less functions that you can invoke. And you can create multiple of, let's say, tabs use cases that we use today. But there's also no need to. I have 10 versions of a function that does the same thing. So that's why we create singletons here. Yeah, but there's no need to. You can almost do manage them as you like in your app. Okay, now we need to pass in all the things that are needed. We need the tabs tray, the store with the state, then the tabs use cases, and a reference to the drawer. So previously, this wrapper called start and stop on our feature. Now we are inside this integration that is where the wrapper will call start and stop on the feature, on this integration class. So we need to now forward this to our feature ourselves, because since we implement lifecycle aware feature, we are now pretending to be the feature, and we delegate calls to the actual tabs feature. The reason why we do this thing is because we want to do a bunch of more things here now. So let's first hook this up here. We create now tabs tray integration and store and find view pass all the things in the drawer and the use cases. Okay, this is now working again, I hope. And this part we move into the integration as well. So we will have an add tab button. Can be a button, I guess, here. Okay, and pass this in. And let's see. Fix the imports, and I think it should still work. So now all the setup is in this integration class, and here at this point we will do more things, setting up the layouts and so on. Let's see if everything is still working. Go to mozilla.org. Create a new tab, Wikipedia. We switch a tab. Yeah, looks good. Okay, let's look at the setup. I don't remember what kind of things we allow to do on the tabs tray, so let's look at some of the methods first, I guess. Tabs adapter, we don't care about this. That does not look super awesome. Let's cheat. There is another browser that we can look at. I mentioned Firefox already. There's also a reference browser. Reference browser is a very simple browser that uses Android components as well, and it is mostly only using the components as is. And we can take a peek at how we set up tabs here, because I think they look already much nicer. In reference browser, this works a little bit different. Here we have all of the views in one fragment. Reference browser has, as far as I remember, a separate fragment just for the list of tabs. Is this one? You can see there is the tabs feature that is basically the same as in our browser. A tabs panel, I think that is the toolbar. Let's see, do I have reference browser installed on this? I don't right now. Otherwise I would have shown you. Looks like. Then let's see. Create and set up tabs tray. That's something we probably want to do too. So there's a linear layout manager. And tabs tray styling is something you can create. That is pretty cool. A thumbnail loader, something we probably want to. View holder provider, so we can change the layout. New adapter. And a tabs touch helper. Okay. Let's see. I don't want to do too much view styling right now, but the current one definitely does not look great. So maybe let's start by having just a list of tabs and maybe showing the title and the URL. And then let's look at the thumbnail next time. I think that is maybe otherwise too much right now. So how do we do this? We need a layout manager and linear layout manager. In this case, we don't want to have the grid anymore. And then we can just set it and then set a new adapter. So let's start by setting the layout manager, linear layout manager. And then we need a context, okay. Something we don't have here yet. And an orientation. Vertical and reverse layout, nope. Okay. Do it like this. Let's actually deploy this and see if this already creates vertical list. Let's pass in the context, require context. Okay, let's load a page. Mozilla.org. Yeah, still not super nice, but we have a horizontal list already of tabs. You may have noticed that there's a very important piece missing. That's session restore, which means whenever you launch a browser, you still want to see the tabs that were open in a browser the last time you launched it. Let's add this too in the next episode. It should be quite easy. As usually, there's a component because almost every browser needs that. We set this up and then we can save and restore our session from disk. Okay, that looks better. Let's change the layout into something that looks a little bit nicer. For that, we will need to create a tabs adapter, and then we can provide the styling, and we can also provide our own view holder provider. Have you had any bad experience with Kotlin synthetic? Why don't you use that? I think in reference browser we actually use Kotlin synthetic. I think I've read that this is no longer recommended. I don't know the details, but I think I read something about it's easy to leak views with synthetics. The main reason why I use view by ID here is because I don't want to get too much into different libraries and options. I'm open to changing this though to something else. This definitely needs to change at some point. Like, this is super ugly and I think unnecessary in pieces because we look up the same views multiple times. Yeah, this should change. If you have suggestions, that is super great. If you go to the repository and open an issue, I'm super happy to do things that people are interested in or try new things. So the main reason is it's vanilla. I didn't have a strong opinion on what to use. Okay, why is this actually red now? We change anything? Let's deploy this again. No. It's just Android Studio being Android Studio apparently. Okay, back to the tabs tray integration. Let's set an adapter. Tabs adapter. Okay, we need to, no, we don't need to. We can provide a thumbnail loader. We can provide a view holder provider, and we can, that's it. So as mentioned before, the thumbnail loader we will ignore. Let's pass in null, and the view holder provider, that's the thing we want to do. Let's go back to this here. So the view holder provider is just something that gets the view group, and then we return our new view group, a new view wrapped in a default tab view holder. I think I'll just steal this as is. Oops, do this here. Default view holder. The layout, we need to create one first. Item tab, maybe. Let's use this one here. Oops. Our layout. Then we return a default tab view holder. And the thumbnail loader is still null. Okay, it needs a tabs tray as well. Tabs tray. Seems like we are on a different version. Yeah, it's not fully compatible. Like reference browsers, probably on the latest version on Android Component. I don't want to get into updating it now too, so let's try to port this back. So This one gets a parent and a tabs tray. So we can just pass this along here. A view tabs tray looks good. Why is it not accepting this? Cannot access class image loader from Mozilla component support images. Okay, that's unfortunate that the public API of this component forces us to import the support images component, even though we don't use any of that. But that's what we will do. Support images. So support components, as the name suggests, provide kind of utilities, things that help you do things that support you. Okay, support images. Let's see. Okay, now it's not red anymore. And now we only need to adapt the layout. Where can I switch? I don't want to. Yeah, I want to do XML. So let's take a peek at the reference browser layout and then adapt it. Okay, that's a ton of things. Oops, let's see. It's a card view with a background. That's the thumbnail. I think that's the piece we don't necessarily need. And there is text, title, the URL, and a close button. Okay, now we need to fix up the layout. Title to start. To start of parent. Yes, yeah. And the URL also. To start of parent. Okay, and not sure if you can see this, but for some kind of reason there's a gap here. Let's see. Oh, that's the padding at the end. Why does this have a padding at the end and this doesn't? It also has a padding at the end. Wait, the padding is fine. Margin. This is a margin at the end. Why does the other one not have a margin? Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. Still weird. Let's see how it looks like. There's a close icon that we are missing here. Oh yeah, you mentioned margin int. Your team uses synthetics and it's only problematic when used in ViewHolder, but it's easy to use in ViewHolder too. I guess then you don't need to pass tabs tray to tabs tray integration. Yeah, it's right. Might be an option. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I see. This icon, there is Ta-da! A component that provides you with a bunch of icons that we use across our apps. And I don't want to draw an icon now, so I will just use UI icons. Of course, you can just import whatever icon and use that instead. Okay. See? Okay. Now we have an icon, I think. Let's deploy this and see if it explodes. Let's go to a website. Awesome. There are none at all anymore. Okay, that does not look great at all. Let's take a peek at the layout inspector maybe to see if there's anything at all. Layout inspector. It's bigger. Okay, so this is the browser tabs tray, and it's pretty empty. So what did we break? Tabs tray integration. We added our own adapter here. Our own view holder provider. Ba-dum-bum. Can we pass in null as the view holder provider? No. I was curious if we could test it without our own. It's caused by setting the adapter of it's our view holder provider. That is just weird. Okay, we shadow tabs tray here. That is not the problem, I think. What is the problem? Can compare it to this one again. Logcat sometimes tells you if the recycler view isn't set up properly. That is a good idea as well. Let's open. That's a ton of things. Start this again. One problem here is that Gecko view is spamming a lot of things. Okay, here we create a tab. That's loading. View, Gecko view, web content. Didn't see anything related to this. We open this up. No. Let's disable the adapter for a second. That was the only thing we changed from the previous code, right? Yeah. The layout manager we already tested previously. Mozilla.org. Yeah, there is our tab again. So setting this adapter, definitely the thing that breaks it. Let's go back. This one also sets the styling. And the touch helper, that should not matter. The only difference is the thumbnail loader. And this one should be optional. Well, and reference browsers on a different version of Android components. We could also try to update to the latest version. And hope there are no breaking changes that we need to go through. I mean, we could test setting a styling, but it would be weird if this is important for some kind of reason. Let's try. At least try. It's a quick thing to try. The feature is using the tabs adapter reference instead of the tabs tray. The feature is using the tabs adapter reference instead of the tabs tray. You mean here? Oh, this one doesn't even exist in this version. In the reference browser code. Yeah, that's true. Here we don't need to provide one. Okay, let's try at least updating so that we are on the same version. Now we will hate ourselves for having copied this all the time, so we need to replace all the 49s here. Let's go back and take a look at reference browser, Android components. So reference browser is on a nightly version, that's why there's this long string at the end. Should we be smart about this and now create? No, we just replace. Okay, let's sync and see where it explodes. And move this for now. Oh, there's one problem now. We are using a nightly version, which is getting published in a different Maven repository. nightly.maven.mozilla.org. Sync this. Okay, now we need to download new components, so this will take a second, and allows us to drink some coffee. And water. So we expect this no longer to be needed, and this one not needed. And let's see. Yeah, are there any questions I can answer while we are downloading components? Otherwise, I will navigate back to this code reference browser. Sorry, I meant the tabs feature component was initialized with tabs adapter, not the tabs tray in the reference. Oh, you mean here? Tray adapter. Tabs adapt. Oh, wow. Yeah, you're. Oh. Let's see if this breaks now. If this is tabs tray. You're using Hilt, I see. Do you need to annotate every dagger related fragment, or if you annotate only base fragment, is it enough? This is the first step I'm using Hilt, and the only thing in the fragment I needed to do is add at entry point. And this is the only fragment we have so far, so I'm not sure. You only need to do it for a base fragment. But yeah, adding this annotation seems cheap, even if it's needed on all fragments. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. We pass in the adapter here, and that is interesting. Since the adapter itself probably does not implement, it does implement tabs tray. Okay, I have no clue. But that is a good point. We should do this too. I'm not sure why, but let's try. And that's probably a reason to also have something like create and set up tabs tray. And then we move all of that over. And then we return. Do we still, but we still also set it. All right. Tabs tray. Oh, okay. Browser tabs tray is now deprecated, and you should use recycler view directly. This explains why we return the adapter here. It's still weird that it's an adapter object, but it definitely makes sense to use a recycler view in this case. Should we change this now? Maybe we should. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, let's migrate to the new API. We will need to do this anyway at some point. So let's double check. I assume reference browser also uses a recycler view now. Yeah, it does. Okay. Then let's do this too. Use a recycler view here. And this is now a recycler view. And back to the fragment. There's no type here anyways. So here we will say create and set up tabs tray. Maybe name this recycler view now, because it's otherwise weird to pass in a tabs tray if you expect to get a tabs tray back. We get a recycler view here. We set those things on the recycler view now. Also the context. And then we return the adapter. Create a reference first. Yeah, thank you very much that you noticed this, because I feel like it would have taken me hours to actually see this difference. What about recyclerview.context? Yeah, it's already attached at this point, right? Call this from onView create. Yeah, I think that should actually work. Another good point. Yeah, let's try this. And then we can use this here as well. Okay. Deploy. Okay. Of course we need to stop passing in a context now. Hey, did not crash yet. Actually, I just wanted to say, like, today it did not crash once, and it crashed. Okay, it's complaining that we don't have a view for the thumbnail, which is super annoying, and we should probably file a bug for that, since you're not required to pass in an image loader for the thumbnail. You should also not require to have one in your view. Well, I think in this case we might just be lazy and copy the layout as is. It's actually, what was the name? Tabs tray item, this one. Yeah, I guess in this case we will just copy it, and then the thumbnail will just be empty. Is the content description for the close button. Do we have strings already? Yeah. So, how do we name this? Close tab. It's definitely the string. Content description close tab. And the icon, I thought didn't we import those already? Open tab. That looks like the wrong content description. And background color for the card view. I don't know. Let's use white. And then we need to see it in action to decide. And then the icon, I'm confused that it's not here. Why is it not here? Let's deploy. Is it really an error? Or is it Android Studio? Browser tabs tray is deprecated. Do we still have... Okay, the import is still here. Let's get rid of the import. Okay. Do not crash. Did not crash. And woo! That looks pretty nice. Compared to the previous version at least. We should change the styling. Styling is still... Oh yeah, and the white background is also a bit ugly, I guess. What kind of colors do we actually want to use? Like whenever we load a page, we have this very bright blue. Maybe use this as the selected color, and for the other one, just the same as here, in the background. Let's try this quickly. See if it looks at least a little bit better. Yeah. Okay, there was this styling. Could set traps, tray styling. What kind of options does this give us? Item background color, selected item background color, text color, selected text color, URL text color, selected URL text color. Okay, let's start with the item background and selected item background color. If it's not selected, it's in here. It's not selected, maybe use, let's try purple 500. I'm actually not sure if context compat get color is the way to get the color in the year 2020. There's so many ways to load colors and drawables nowadays that I'm actually not sure anymore. But we will see. If it looks weird, we will do something else. And if it's selected, let's try to use the super bright teal 200. And I assume we need to adapt the text color too, to make this not look super awful. Transparent? You mean for the not selected tab background? Yeah, that might be an interesting choice too. We can try this too. And yeah, I wish we implemented session restore. That's definitely the next thing we will do the next time. Yeah, it doesn't look too shitty. Wikipedia. It almost looks like transparent. I think you're right. Transparent might look Might look good. Need to make the text white, and in this case let's try also making all text white. So if there's none, use transparent. I really hope color.transparent is actually transparent on all devices. If I remember correctly, on some Samsung devices color.white was not actually white the best. Text color white, and selected text color white, and for the URL also always white for now. Let's see. I don't trust the color. Yeah, in a production app I actually wouldn't use the constant. Okay, let's see. Mozilla.org. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Maybe want a different background for the thumbnail, but we need to see how it looks like when there are actually images on some pages. The Verge. Oh wow, didn't we select? Yeah, we used white. Why is it not white? This is a bug. And let's open another one. I'm out of ideas. Let's open the same pages. Doesn't matter. It is not awesome, but better. Better than before. I'm not sure anymore if transparent is the best choice. Maybe it is if the URL doesn't look that shitty. Did I miss anything? Selected item URL text color. Yeah, should use white. I think we might have found a bug. Well, let's check Firefox again. You switch Firefox to dark mode. Let's load some pages first. Oh yeah, we should also add autocomplete. Makes testing easier as well. So it's this grayish, and if we switch to, where do I do this? Settings, I think. Setting. Customize. Dark. I think it's a different gray, but it's super hard to say. But I assume so. It's almost white, I think. So you wouldn't see this otherwise. So I have no clue why it is not working. We will find it out. And maybe it's something to fix. This is definitely not the gray, so I'll also take a peek at reference browser quickly. Because reference browser itself is also using a darkish theme. Although I'm not sure if it's doing that in the item background, item text color white. Item text color white. Does it change anything if we don't set the other ones, which would be weird? You never know. This is already scrollable, the drawer. It should be, yeah. The the underlying recycler view should already give us that. No, that doesn't change anything. Okay, that's something to look at a different time. I can try adding a ton of tabs. It will just take a bit. I don't need to load anything in them at least. Yeah, I can scroll them. It's just awkward if I do a horizontal swipe while doing so. I'm not sure if it's just weird because of the mouse input. Need to try it on a phone. Okay. Yeah. I think that is enough for today. Let's look at the diff. So we updated to 52. We moved stuff to the integration class, the new Tapestry integration class. This one there's a bunch of new lines here that we can remove. We now set up the tabs button here. We forward lifecycle methods to the feature inside the integration class. We created this create and set up tabs tray where we style the tabs tray now. And we switched to recycler view in the newest version. And this is the layout for our tab item. And then we added a new string and import the nightly components. So let's commit this. Should be 2 commits, but there's no need to untangle this now. Update to nightly version of Android components and style tabs tray a bit. Okay, push. All right. So we definitely need to figure out why the text doesn't work here, why it's not white. But not today. I'm quite happy with the result. We have a working tabs tray, and I actually like the contrast between this bluish cyan and the purple. So next time we need to add thumbnails, and then we will also add session restore, I think, because it's super annoying to always start with an empty browser that's not usable. Right now I wish also there would be a close all tabs button. Maybe that's also something we add. And maybe autocomplete. Like if I type Wikipedia again, I always need to type the whole URL, and that is not fun when you are testing a browser. So we need to improve our life by having autocomplete and session restore, and then add thumbnails. And then let's see. If you want to make a suggestion what we should build in one of the next streams, go to this repository. I will post the URL one more time into the chat. And open an issue with whatever interests you, whatever you think is wrong, whatever you think we should do differently, or what kind of feature we should add to the browser. I'm open to doing whatever is interesting to you. And yeah, if you can't follow live, there's a link to a YouTube playlist, I think, in the channel description, and I will publish recordings of the stream. But of course, if you want to interact and chat with me, then it's super nice if you join Twitch. And that has worked pretty well today, like wop 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 mop, if this is your username. when you mentioned that we should pass the adapter to the feature, I think that was the key to making it work. And I totally didn't see this in this snippet in reference browser. That's a new API I haven't seen yet. All right, so thank you everyone for watching. I think we will have another stream this week, and I hope to see you again. Bye-bye.